All right, so welcome to the deep dive. You guys sent us some pretty wild stuff for this deep dive.
Yeah, for real.
The I'd like to buy the world a Coke commercial and passages from the Law of One.
A classic, that commercial.
Yeah. Which, like, at first glance seem like completely different things.
Right. Totally different
A
world.
jingle about a sugary drink
Right.
and then, like, heady spiritual concepts.
Right.
But that's what we love about these deep dives, so stick with us.
That's where it gets interesting, for
Yes,
sure.
it'll get pretty wild.
So what we've got here is, I think, a really fascinating juxtaposition.
Yeah.
You know, you've got this global brand aiming for this like universal appeal, right? And
Yeah.
then you've got this text, this esoteric text that delves into the complexities of consciousness and spiritual evolution across densities.
It really makes you wonder, like, how all these two seemingly different things connect.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, can a corporation really buy the world with a product?
Oh, that's the
Is
question.
that what Coca-Cola was aiming for with this?
Well, I mean, if we look at Coca-Cola's history, it's really like a textbook example of globalization.
Huge.
I mean, from a local drink in Atlanta to a symbol that's recognized worldwide, it's really remarkable how they managed to, achieve that level of market penetration. I mean, they became almost synonymous with American culture itself.
Absolutely.
I mean, think about it. They even had bottling plants set up overseas during World War II just to supply American troops.
Right. I read about those technical observers
Yeah, fascinating.
who were sent to establish these plants, so it's almost like Coke was like part of the war effort.
Right.
Like a little taste of home for soldiers fighting overseas.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's what makes that commercial, "I'd like to buy the world a Coke," so fascinating.
Yeah.
Released in 1971, right in the middle of the Cold War,
Crazy.
it paints this, idealized image of global harmony. It's all about unity and sharing, a world united by this common love for this drink.
Right. But, and here's the kicker, can a corporation, which is driven by profit, really foster that global unity?
Yeah,
Is that even possible?
that's the paradox, isn't it?
Yeah.
On the one hand, you have this, like, feel-good message of connection and shared humanity.
Right.
And on the other, you have the realities of a company expanding its market, increasing its profits, and solidifying its global dominance.
And that's where the law of one comes in with a whole different perspective on interconnectedness.
Right.
This idea that we are all part of this one unified consciousness,
Mm.
all striving towards spiritual evolution.
And one of the key concepts in the law of one is this idea of densities. So imagine like levels of spiritual awareness and evolution.
Okay.
So we here on Earth, we exist in the third density focused on self-awareness and individual survival.
Right.
But there are higher densities where beings operate with greater love, understanding, and wisdom.
So it's like levels to consciousness.
Levels to consciousness, exactly. Like
Right.
different levels of being.
Good.
And the goal is to progress through these densities,
I see.
through reincarnation and learning.
Okay.
So we're working our way up.
It's a lot to take in, I know.
Yeah.
But what I find really fascinating is this idea of the Council of Saturn.
Oh, yeah. The Council of Saturn.
These are higher density beings that, according to the law of one, are essentially overseeing the spiritual evolution of our planet.
They're like the guardians.
Yeah. I mean, really.
They act as guides, offering wisdom and support for those seeking, spiritual growth.
Oh.
And then you also have these wanderers,
What?
souls who originate from higher densities, but they choose to incarnate on Earth
Right.
to help raise our collective consciousness.
Wait, so there could be people walking around among us who are actually from higher densities.
That's what the law of one suggests. Yeah. It's pretty trippy.
That's crazy.
It makes you wonder, right?
Yeah.
Are we all on some level, striving to return to this state of unity, to reconnect with the source of all creation? Is that what drives us towards connection, even through something as simple as sharing a Coke?
That's a pretty mind-blowing thought.
Mhm.
But if we're all connected, all part of this grand cosmic dance,
Right.
then where does the concept of individual choice fit in? Does the law of one have anything to say about that?
Absolutely, it does.
Yeah.
The law of one emphasizes this fundamental concept of polarity,
Okay.
which is the choice between service to others and service to self paths.
Okay.
And this choice isn't about being, good or bad. It's really about understanding the motivations behind our actions.
Okay, so how does this concept of polarity apply to a corporation like Coca-Cola?
Hmm.
Are they operating from a service to self perspective because their primary goal is profit?
Well, it's not so much about labeling them as service to self, but recognizing that there's potential for both positive and negative expressions, within any system.
Right.
And Coca-Cola, through its global reach, does have the potential to connect people from different cultures and to create this sense of shared experience.
Like that iconic image from the commercial, right?
Yeah.
Everyone on a hilltop, all singing together in harmony.
Exactly.
Powerful vision of unity, even if it's idealized.
Exactly. It highlights the potential for even a commercial product to transcend its material purpose and tap into something deeper, something that speaks to our desire for connection.
Wow. But let's be real for a second. We can't ignore the criticisms, right,
Yeah.
that have been leveled at Coca-Cola, their environmental impact, their marketing tactics, their
Ah.
influence on communities around the world.
Absolutely. We can't just gloss over those things. And that's where this concept of personal transformation comes in,
Wait.
described in the Law of One.
Yeah.
It's about looking inward, understanding our own motivations and how our actions align with, our chosen polarity.
So when we buy a Coke,
Right.
or anything for that matter,
Yeah.
are we feeding into a system that prioritizes profit over people?
It's a good question. It's not really about judging individual choices as right or wrong, but rather kind of understanding this complex interplay of individual actions and collective systems.
Right.
The Law of One encourages us to consider the consequences of our choices, both personal and societal.
So what does that mean for a company like Coca-Cola then? Are they, like, somehow destined to operate from a service-to-self perspective simply because they exist within a capitalist system?
Again, it's not about labeling them, right? It's about recognizing the potential for both positive and negative manifestations within any system. Even a corporation that's driven by profit can make choices that benefit others,
Right.
choices that align with more service to owners orientation.
So maybe it's about, like, pushing for transparency and ethical behavior from
Yeah.
these companies,
Yeah.
like Coca-Cola, while also recognizing their potential to affect positive change.
Yeah, precisely. It's this cycle of influence, right?
Yeah.
Our choices as consumers create a demand, and that demand influences the actions of corporations, and then those actions, in turn, shape the world we live in.
Okay, so we've talked about globalization, individual choice, but I'm still kind of stuck on this idea of Earth transitioning to a fourth density planet, as the Law of One suggests.
Right.
What does that even look like?
Well, the Law of One describes this transition as a shift from a focus on, individual survival to a higher level of consciousness. And that consciousness is characterized by love and understanding. So imagine a world where, our actions are driven by compassion
Right.
and this deep sense of interconnectedness.
And there's this concept of a harvest, right? Where souls are evaluated based on their level of spiritual evolution and either graduate to the next density or reincarnate to continue learning.
Yes, but harvest isn't this kind of judgment day scenario.
Okay.
It's more about a natural progression, like graduating from one grade to the next.
Okay. But if Earth is transitioning to a fourth density planet, wouldn't that mean that everyone is moving towards a service to others orientation?
Not necessarily. Remember, free will is paramount. Individuals still have the choice to align with either polarity, even in a fourth density environment.
So what happens to those who choose a service to self path during this transition? Are they, like, left behind?
It's not about being left behind, right? The Law of One suggests that those on a service to self path will continue to incarnate in third density realities until they're ready to make the choice to serve others.
Okay, so it's not like they're being punished or anything.
No.
They're just continuing on a path.
They're continuing on their chosen path until they're ready for something different.
Okay.
Exactly. It highlights this idea that there's no right or wrong path, just different expressions of the creator's infinite potential.
I'm starting to see how this all ties together. We're talking about a Coke commercial, globalization, spiritual evolution, and yet there's this, like, underlying theme of interconnectedness.
It's all part of a larger cosmic dance, a tapestry, woven from the choices we make both individually and collectively. And within that dance, we each have the opportunity to express our unique spark of the creator,
Right.
to contribute to the evolution of consciousness, and to co-create a reality that reflects our deepest values.
That's a beautiful way to put it. But it also feels, like, daunting. How do we actually do that? How do we make choices that align with this vision of a more loving and connected world?
Well, the Law of One offers some kind of practical guidance, practices like meditation, contemplation, and service to others. These are tools for cultivating self-awareness, expanding our consciousness, and aligning our actions with our chosen polarity.
So it's about making conscious choices like in the smallest moments of our lives.
Exactly. Every interaction, every thought, every action, it's all an opportunity to express love, to offer compassion, and to contribute to the healing of ourselves and our world.
That's powerful. So we're not just like passive observers in this reality.
Wow.
We're like active participants, co-creators with the power to shape the direction of our own evolution and the evolution of our planet.
You're getting it. And that realization is a profound source of empowerment.
It's definitely a lot to think about. But in a way, it's also quite hopeful. It
Yes.
suggests that we're not bound by our circumstances, that we have the power to choose a different path, to create a better future.
Precisely. And that's the beauty of free will. It offers us this opportunity to learn, to grow, and to evolve towards a greater understanding of ourselves and the universe we inhabit.
It's like that image of everyone singing together in the Coke commercial,
Yeah.
a vision of unity and harmony. Maybe it's not so far-fetched after all.
Perhaps it's a reminder that even amidst the complexities of globalization and corporate influence, there's still this yearning for connection, a longing for a world where we can all come together in peace and understanding. And that yearning, that longing, might just be the driving force that propels us towards a brighter future.
Wow. So we journeyed from the like fizzy sweetness of a Coke commercial
Yeah.
to the mind-bending realms of the law of one.
Yeah.
And I have to say, this deep dive has really like shaken up my perspective.
It's pretty amazing how these seemingly unrelated things, a global brand, a catchy jingle, and a complex spiritual text can come together to reveal such a profound insights.
What strikes me is this. Coca-Cola, with its like mass production and global reach, represents this very like tangible material aspect of our world.
It's like the epitome of modern consumerism, right? You can find a Coke basically anywhere on the planet.
Exactly. But then you have the "I'd like to buy the world a Coke" commercial. Sure, it's selling a product,
Right.
but it also taps into something like deeper, a longing for connection and unity.
It plays on our innate desire for harmony,
Right.
even if it's a very idealized, commercialized version of it.
Right. And that desire, according to the law of one, stems from our like true nature as spiritual beings, all interconnected, all part of this unified consciousness.
It's like Coca-Cola, maybe unintentionally, stumbled upon a spiritual truth.
Wow.
And their product, through its global presence, becomes the symbol of our interconnectedness, whether we realize it or not.
It's a bit ironic, isn't it? This symbol of consumerism also pointing towards this deeper, like spiritual reality.
Irony is often a sign that we're onto something interesting.
And a
It
thought.
makes you think, what if even the most mundane aspects of our lives can serve as catalysts for spiritual growth? What if, a simple act of sharing a Coke can remind us of our shared humanity?
Okay, I love that idea. But I can't help but think about the, less than harmonious aspects of Coca-Cola's history.
Sure.
Their environmental impact, their marketing tactics, all the criticisms they faced. How does that fit into this idea of spiritual evolution?
Well, I think it's important to remember that the law of one emphasizes progress, not perfection. Spiritual evolution isn't about becoming saints or anything. It's about learning, growing, and making more conscious choices.
So we can acknowledge Coca-Cola's shortcomings while also appreciating their potential to, do better.
Exactly. We can hold them accountable,
Yeah.
Push for more ethical and sustainable practices, and, recognize that even corporations can be part of our collective journey toward greater consciousness.
It all circles back to the individual, doesn't it?
It does.
Our choices as consumers influence the actions of these corporations, which in turn shape the world we live in.
Absolutely. We have more power than we realize. Every purchase, every action is a vote for the kind of world that we want to create.
So what are we left with after this deep dive? What's the takeaway for our listeners?
I think it's a reminder that even in a world that's dominated by mass production and globalization,
Right.
we can find these sparks of meaning and connection in the most unexpected places.
We just have to be willing to look deeper, to question our assumptions, and to recognize the interconnectedness of all things.
And to remember that we're not just passive consumers, we're active participants in the evolution of consciousness.
It's a powerful message, and I think it's one that resonates deeply with the spirit of that old Coke commercial.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing our shared humanity, celebrating our differences, and, coming together to create a more harmonious world.
And maybe, just maybe, a bottle of Coke can be a small reminder of that grand vision.
That's a beautiful thought to end on. So to our listeners, Keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep seeking those connections that make life so rich and meaningful. Until next time, keep diving deep.